even starting with what looks like an almost perfect U stave can be fraught with problems and considerations. Having roughed it out, bear in mind I've still got about 50mm width. See, it looks quite nice this side. Plenty of sapwood. Got a big knot near the grip, which doesn't matter, we can leave extra meat at the grip. Couple of knots there, they'll probably disappear, so that will be alright. Another knot there, that will probably go. You got this one here and this one. Bit of a knot there is irrelevant, so you think, well, that's alright, I can just I can lay out the bow on this side well away from these knots. Yeah, but we look at this side and we've got all the sapwood showing. We're on the curve of the log. So if we look at the end, you can see what I mean. So ideally we want the tip of the bow to be about there. And if we move it across to this side, we've got sort of more sapwood, less heartwood. We'd have to cut away a lot more sapwood, and the sapwood would be at an angle. And we're sort of running out of sapwood there, and we've got this weird stuff, is it heart, is it sap? So on the one hand we want to lay the bow out over this side, but on the other hand we want to lay the bow over this side. So that's what we call a compromise, really. What I'm basically doing here is I'm ripping off a fair bit of sapwood to give me a flat surface, so it's easier to mark out, it's easier to see what I've got. I can have a look at the knots. I'm vaguely following a ring, I'm keeping this darker ring showing all along. So I know I'm not going too far, I've got plenty of sapwood still, and it will get the bark off. So I'll clean it up like that. Then I'll lay it out a little bit tighter with a string line and run it through the bandsaw again and see if I can maybe remove the knot, you know, do this, do that. I've taken a tiny bit off the end. I've cut it down to 80 inches, which is plenty long enough. I mean, sort of 6.5 foot would be plenty. I took this little slice off. That was where it had been painted with PVA, just so I could see the end. This is the other end. You can see that's a bit more symmetrical. And that's the end we were looking at before. So you can see, nice if you can lay it out in line with the centre of the tree, but you can't always. Anyway, I'll follow along the build of this bow all the way from log to finished bow, for my record and your delectation and entertainment. There, I've cleaned off all the back of it now. Still tons of sapwood. I'll have to take it down further, but that's just a first go. I've mostly followed along a ring. Give me a nice clean surface to mark out. Let me see what's lurking underneath. Created a fair amount of mess which I can sweep up. I was wearing my ventilated air shield face mask all the time because I noticed I'd started coughing again. Doesn't do any harm. It got a bit quicker for the second half because I got an old bit of oil stone and cleaned up the edge of my tool knife, just gave it a quick sharpen. I then made the mistake of wiping the blade clear of oil and just sliced into my thumb a tiny bit. One of those split second things where you're just thinking, oh, I need to be really careful here, oh bugger, and you just slice in. It's only very shallow, fortunately, not one of those nasty ones where your knees go wobbly and you think, oh my god, what have I done? Yes, no harm done. So I'll have another good look at it and I'll start marking it out. I'll just show you how I do a string line. What I do is I take the string underneath the stave like that, which then means you can move it across at the top without having to undo the tape. Now ideally I'd want it sitting there at the top of this, you know, curve of the heartwood. But of course that brings me close to this knot, so I'll shift it across a little bit, sort of like that, which might be alright. And if you think that's the centre of the log, this knot probably comes out from the centre. Well, and I can always put a little bit of a waggle in the bow here, you know, if I want to lay it out dead straight, and this cuts away. So when I rough it out, I'll just allow a bit extra there to give me room for if I need to put a little waggle in. But that's not a bad compromise. But again, if you look down it, I don't know how well that's showing up. What looks like a dead straight stave is surprisingly waggly. Anyway, I think that's probably our best compromise. It's fairly central in the middle, a bit over to the left at the tip here. But I'll mark out that as my centre line. Yeah, I'll mark it out just putting a little tick either side of the string, and then I can join them up with a straight line later. You see this knot's going to be plumb centre, which is good. Again, I can swell the bow a little either side of that if necessary. So I'll either have a quick peek at weapons of war, or I'll stick the verniers on one of my other bows, but I haven't got any big. This is supposed to be 85. I don't think I've got any 90 pounders because I can't pull them. I mean, the heavier bows tend to go to the war bow fraternity. You know, my mates who can pull back the heavy stuff. I had a quick look at the Mary Rose Weapons of War book just to give me an idea, and yeah, most of the bows, well not most, there's a large cluster of bows around about 34mm wide. Smallest I could find was actually 32.7, so where I was guessing at sort of 35 would have allowed plenty. I can come down a bit from that, so I'm aiming about 33. Just for rough out, of course, it will come down narrower. And when you start marking it out, you realise, blimey, what I thought was a huge stave is now actually not quite so big. The other thing I do is I mark it out parallel virtually all the way up. A lot of books will say, oh, you have it running parallel for 10 inches either the side of the handle, then you taper it linearly to a 1/2 inch tip. In my opinion, it's a mistake. You end up with it too, I've done it myself, and you think, oh my god, I'm too thin round about here, middle in. So I'll keep it basically parallel. That's not the finished bow, this is rough out. Parallel until I'm, my span is 10 inches, so there I'm around about 10 inches from the end of the bow, 8 inches. Then I taper it in, but I taper it into 20mm. Leave extra width, allows you to adjust the string line, and it lets you have a look at where the bow is sitting in the wood. Now if we have a look, this knot's still in the middle, and because I'm laying it out parallel, I've got plenty of width there. And interestingly, you can see I just about missed this knot. Bearing in mind I'm tapering to 20mm, and in the end it'll be a point there, and it'll be 1/2 inch about here. So I should clear that knot, but we're aiming on the side of caution. So I'll probably put a finer blade on my bandsaw and rough that out. Then when I've roughed that out, I can turn it on its side and maybe do a rough thickness cut, take some of this off the belly. But I'll have a better look at the sapwood once it's been run through the bandsaw. Talking of which, for cutting wet timber and first roughing out, that is a 3 teeth per inch blade, and the teeth kick out in alternate sides, left and right, so it's called a 3-inch AS, which is alternate set. Now this bandsaw struggles with anything too big. You know, theoretically you can cut something 10 inches in it, and you can if it's clean dry timber, but with a wet log, that thing that we're working on there, that was about at the limit of it. With 2 people and a lot of fiddling and fettling and putting beeswax on the blade, you can do something bigger, but a bandsaw saves an awful lot of work, not just in your bow making. It saved me tons of work when I was re-roofing the porch at the front of the house, any DIY and stuff like that. It's only cost me about 100 quid off eBay. Needed a bit of tarting up and fiddling and fettling, but you know, if you're going to get seriously into your bow making, well, or any DIY, a bandsaw is a good thing if you've got the room. Yeah, I'd love to have a massive great one. Well, I'd love to have a whole sawmill, but that's not really going to happen, is it? Starts there, so it's right on the edge of the bow. That might need digging out and filling. Do it early and then it might disappear off the side of the bow. Similarly, this one, I've got most of it out the way, so hopefully we're going to be good. This side, where there's a lot of funny heartwood, sapwood, there's more heartwood showing now. And looking at the end of the bow, I can see, yes, I'm going to have to take the sapwood down quite a bit more. You know, take it down to about half that thickness. So there's more sapwood reduction to be done, and you can see it's at a slight angle, the heartwood sapwood boundary. But we're getting there. So, you know, I'll probably take off a little bit of this heartwood here, just tidy up along the belly a bit. And then clean the sapwood up again, you know, slowly keep roughing it down. But yeah, we're getting there, and it just goes to show that even a stave that looks gorgeous, you know, you think, oh, I wish I had staves that good. When you start studying it close up, there's always something lurking in there. That'll do for now. Nice cup of tea. Guys, look at all your stuff. Having taken the sapwood down flat initially, and now I've got the bow to a sort of shape, you can see there's more sapwood this side than this. So sometimes it's difficult to reduce it, you know, nice and evenly. So what I've done is I've gone along with a pencil and marked how thick I want the sapwood this side. Still being cautious, allowing plenty. I can take more off than that. And then what I do is I'll take off this corner, going from about there down to that line. So I'm not risking, you know, cutting through to the heartwood anywhere. So effectively I'll take off that corner, then I'll do the same this side, take off that corner, and then I can take off the ridge at the middle, keeping an eye on the you know, growth rings. And you can see here, this is where I've been working it along, and you can see I've been cutting roughly from the centre line down to that line. So I'll have a nice even layer of sapwood this side, you know, swelling up over the lumps and bumps. And that pencil line has just roughly followed a ring. You know, I've not been precious about it. Interesting bits here. And the nice thing is, while you're going along with a draw knife on a corner like that, it comes off easily, and it will tend to come up and follow the grain. So, you know, it's not a lot of hard work trying to meticulously follow a ring. It's just reducing that sapwood down, again by degrees, till you get to the right point. So I can just take off that last little bit there. Yeah, I mean, I don't always do it this way. If you've got a lot of sapwood, you could run it through the bandsaw, but the danger is, if the sapwood's uneven and you judge it from one side, you turn over and find you've cut into the heartwood, which would be a bad thing. So you can just see here, I've got the stave over at an angle, and it just rips off nice and easy. You can follow a line. And the sapwood's nice to work. And it's not going to dig in and split like the hardwood does. Just take it to meet that centre line. I'll show you what I mean. There, hopefully that shows the effect. How I've come down from the centre to that line. Then I'll do this side, and then I'll take that point off the top, and we'll end up with a reasonable thickness of sapwood. I don't know if you can see those sort of growth rings showing on the side there. There you go.